Hi, my name is Zack Shapiro. I'm the head of policy at the Bitcoin Policy Institute and the executive director of the Peer-to-Peer Rights Fund. And I wanted to make this video to explain a recent development in a court case that impacts Americans' ability to use peer-to-peer privacy tools on the internet. This case has gotten a lot of attention recently, but I think there's also a lot of misunderstanding out there in the reporting about this case. So I wanted to sort of give my attempt at a full explainer. So a couple weeks ago now, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals came out with a decision that the OFAC, which is a part of the Treasury Department, which sanctions foreign entities to stop illicit finance, had overstepped their authority in designating the Tornado Cash pool smart contracts as a designated entity, as property of a foreign national, subject to OFAC sanctions, and thereby making it illegal for U.S. persons to interact with the Tornado Cash smart contracts. If you don't know what any of that means, don't worry, we'll break it down from the start. So Tornado Cash was a tool that was on the Ethereum network. Ethereum is the second most popular cryptocurrency after Bitcoin. Unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum, their main feature is it includes something called smart contracts. Smart contracts are programs that run on the blockchain, and they allow people to create all sorts of different assets on Ethereum, whether those are fungible tokens like meme coins or NFTs or decentralized finance applications. It's just basically code that runs in a decentralized fashion and might be controlled by a single entity like a startup, or might be controlled by a sort of decentralized community of people. It can be mutable or upgradable, meaning that certain people might have permission to change how the code in a smart contract functions, or it might be immutable, meaning that no one has that ability. Within the Ethereum network, especially around the years 2020 and 2021, one of the most popular activities on Ethereum was to create NFTs. NFTs are non-fungible tokens. It's a token on the blockchain that, unlike a Bitcoin, which is the same as any other Bitcoin, it represents some unique asset. And people got really excited about using NFTs to create crypto video games, the most popular of which was a game called Axie Infinity, which is quite similar to Pokemon, if you've ever played the Pokemon games. The characters in the game were Axies. Those were represented by NFTs. The in-game currency was called SLP, or Smooth Love Potion, which was an ERC20, which is a type of smart contract token. And people would purchase these assets so they could play Axie Infinity, which became really popular. However, the Ethereum network itself is too slow and expensive to operate, to play a video game right on Ethereum. So the company that created Axie Infinity created their own special purpose blockchain called Ronin, on which the game would operate. So people would go and buy Axie characters, the NFTs on Ethereum. They would lock them in the connection between the Ethereum blockchain and the Ronin blockchain, which was called the Ronin Bridge. And then they would play this game, and then they would take those assets back out, for example, to sell the NFTs on an NFT marketplace like OpenSea. Axie Infinity at its peak was worth tens of billions of dollars in market cap for the assets in the game. It weirdly became a pretty substantial percentage of the GDP of the Philippines, where lots of people were playing this game to earn money. Just like in a normal role-playing video game, you'd upgrade your character and it would be more powerful. Here, you would do the same thing, except the crypto assets you'd use in the game would be more valuable. And this became a huge phenomenon. Unfortunately, the North Koreans noticed how much money was at stake in the Ronin Bridge, again, the connection between Ethereum and the Axie Infinity Ronin blockchain. They managed to infiltrate the company that made Axie Infinity and hack the Ronin Bridge and stole, I think within 90 seconds or so, they stole $650 million worth of Ethereum and Ethereum assets, which, if you measure it at the time the assets were stolen, I think is the biggest heist in human history. Now, another thing about the Ethereum blockchain, other than being perhaps too slow and expensive to play a video game directly on, is that, like Bitcoin, the Ethereum blockchain is completely transparent, right? It's pseudonymous. You don't necessarily know who owns each address on the Ethereum blockchain, but once you know, an address belongs to someone, you can track a flow of funds on a block explorer, which is just a program online you can find on a website that allows you to see what's happening on the blockchain. So after the North Koreans stole all of this money, they needed to find some way to launder it. Meanwhile, in 2019, developers on the Ethereum network had created a privacy tool called Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash functions like a traditional, what are called a mixer or a tumbler. Traditionally, the way mixers and tumblers work are you send assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum to some third party. That third party commingles your Bitcoin or Ethereum with other users and then sends back different Bitcoin or Ethereum, so it's hard to track on the blockchain where funds are going from and to. The reason you might want to use a mixer or tumbler might be nefarious. It might be because you're a criminal, or it might be a totally legitimate reason. You are making a sensitive transaction. You don't want anyone to see. You're buying something with cryptocurrency, and you don't want whoever you're buying something from to see every transaction you've ever made. You get paid in cryptocurrency, and you don't want everyone in the world to know how much money you make. So these privacy tools are quite popular. But the way that Tornado Cash worked was that it was a non-custodial privacy tool, meaning you did not give over your Ethereum to someone else to control. Rather, you just interacted with code, with a smart contract. Specifically, the way Tornado Cash worked was there was the core of it were a set of smart contracts called the Tornado Cash pool. You would send your Ethereum to that pool, which is an address on the blockchain. It was held in the smart contract, and in return, you would receive something called a secret note, which is sort of like a private key in Bitcoin or Ethereum. That secret note could be used with a zero-knowledge proof to withdraw exactly the same amount of Ethereum that you deposited. Optionally, you could use this tool called a relayer to pay your gas fees for you on the Ethereum blockchain to provide further anonymity, because if you are using the secret note directly and you're paying gas fees to the Tornado Cash smart contract, someone can see that you're interacting with that. Whereas if a relayer does it for you, it's easier to hide the flow of funds. Additionally, the Tornado Cash developers created a front-end user interface and a DAO, which is short for a decentralized autonomous organization, which is a community of people who hold tokens and can make some governance decisions with relation to how the Tornado Cash smart contract works. And it allowed people to become part of this network of relayers who are people who paid Ethereum gas fees for people using the Tornado Cash pools. Importantly, the Tornado Cash developers rendered the Tornado Cash pool smart contracts mutable, meaning they provably burned their private admin keys to the pool smart contracts, so they could not be upgraded, they could not be changed, and there was no way that either the Tornado Cash developers could directly access the funds that were in the Tornado Cash pools, people's Ethereum they'd put in there, nor could they indirectly move those funds by, for example, upgrading the pool smart contracts and then moving funds according to their will. And so this was a completely non-custodial, completely permissionless privacy tool that anyone could use, including the North Koreans who stole all that money from Axie Infinity. And that appears to be what they did. The Lazarus group of North Korean hackers tried to launder and did, I think, launder a large percentage of the money they got from the Axie Infinity hack through the Tornado Cash privacy tool, which understandably was really alarming to the United States government, which took a bunch of steps. They shut down the Tornado Cash front-end website. They arrested the Tornado Cash developers, which is its own really important legal issue we'll talk about at a different time. But remember that the Tornado Cash smart contract pools are immutable. They can't be changed. They kind of live forever on the internet because they are just code, because no one can take them down. The Tornado Cash pools continue to function even after the United States government tried to shut down Tornado Cash. And so one of the tools left in the toolkit is to use the United States government authority under OFAC, under a statute called IEPA, which gives emergency authority to OFAC to designate the property of foreign nationals as sanctionable under OFAC. They sanctioned various wallets associated with the North Koreans. They sanctioned the relayers, they sanctioned the website, and then they sanctioned these immutable pool smart contracts. This was seen by a lot of industry experts as a really sort of dark step in the wrong direction, because it meant that any American that wanted to use this privacy tool, which is just code that exists on the internet, on the blockchain, was committing a crime. And there were people who pulled what were essentially pranks by finding celebrity Ethereum wallets and sending very small amounts of Ethereum to them that had gone through these pools. And of course, the celebrities, because this was all code, were not able to stop the funds from going from the Tornado Cash pools to their wallets, which, at least in theory, is a violation of OFAC sanctions, which does not have a specific intent requirement. If you're interacting with an OFAC sanctioned entity for any reason, you're guilty. And so this dusting was meant to show the absurdity of sanctioning these smart contract pools. And then there were also a number of lawsuits brought against the government claiming that OFAC did not have the authority to sanction these smart contracts. One of these cases was brought in Texas. A Texas district court, which is the trial level, the sort of base level of federal courts, ruled in favor of the government, saying that the government did have the authority to sanction the smart contracts, saying that they were property of the DAO. The DAO was a sanctionable entity. The smart contracts were property, and so therefore subject to the OFAC authority under IEPA. And what happened recently, this case that folks are talking about, is that ruling was overturned by the appellate court called the Fifth Circuit, which said that because these smart contracts were immutable, because they couldn't be changed by anyone, they are not property, because property needs to be able to be owned by someone. It needs to be able to be moved by someone. These immutable smart contracts didn't have any of the features that property would have in order to be considered property under the law. The previous theory that the trial court had said was that the smart contracts were essentially a unilateral offer for those who wanted to use them, the way that a vending machine works, right? A vending machine is essentially an offer by the owner of the vending machine. You put in $1, automatically you will get out the candy bar or whatever is in the vending machine. And so too, these smart contracts were essentially the property of the DAO, or alternatively the developers. And you put in your Ethereum, you got out the other Ethereum, and they were property in the same way as a vending machine. In its decision, the Fifth Circuit disagreed with that. They pointed out there are all sorts of things that, for example, you can do with a vending machine. You can unplug it, you can change the contents, you can change the prices, you can reprogram it, and none of these things are true of immutable smart contracts. So, what does this mean? This is a pretty strong protection for immutable code on the internet, and it really, I think, allows developers of truly immutable, truly permissionless peer-to-peer tools to feel a little bit more comfortable in developing these tools and putting them up on the internet. However, it's also important to understand what this decision does not mean. So first, the decision from the Fifth Circuit only applies to immutable smart contracts. It does not apply to mutable smart contracts, changeable smart contracts, including some of the smart contracts in the case of Tornado Cash, like the relayers. It also does not necessarily have a strong bearing on the criminal case against the Tornado Cash developers. The Tornado Cash developers are charged with 2 federal crimes. One is conspiracy to commit money laundering on the theory that they knew and intended their tool would be used by people to launder the proceeds of crimes. And they're also charged with operating an unlicensed money service business, which is a argument that the code that they had put out, the Tornado Cash smart contracts, along with the front-end UI, along with the relayers and the DAO, collectively constituted a money transmission business where they were accepting and transmitting funds on behalf of the public, and therefore had to register with FinCEN and KYC everyone who was using this privacy tool. Never mind that would probably defeat the purpose of this privacy tool. That, I think, is frankly a more important legal issue than what was at stake in this Fifth Circuit case, but that case is going to go forward to trial now in April. But I hope this sheds a little bit of light about the Fifth Circuit decision, and I think this is a totally positive step for what it means to have permissionless peer-to-peer code on the internet. At this point, we're going to figure out whether the government is going to try and appeal this decision or not. They could appeal it to what's called en banc panel on the Fifth Circuit. A normal circuit court is 3 judges. You could have a larger panel of judges in an en banc hearing take a look at this decision. If not, it will stand as the law of the land. The 11th Circuit has a similar case. They may come out the same way, in which case this precedent is very likely to last for a long time, or they could disagree, which would make it more likely this case would go to the Supreme Court. I think, frankly, either way, this would be, pretty good step in the right direction for privacy tools and for permissionless code, because either we will have a very robust sort of dual circuit ruling, or we're going to end up in a position where the line between code and property on the blockchain is going to be debated by the U.S. Supreme Court, which I think will shed important light on this issue. Hope this is all helpful.